Hi again and welcome back for another video tutorial on the face tracking camera. In this video we are going to build the loom that will connect the Arduino to our servos and LEDs. Here is the wiring diagram and we can see that we actually have two looms. On the left we have the power supply loom. It contains a voltage regulator that will drop the voltage to 5 volts, and this is going to allow us to power our servos without passing too much current through the Arduino. Just note that I'm still feeding the Arduino with 9 volts through the VIN pin, and this is to force the Arduino to switch power supply to the jack and not the USB port. It will protect your Arduino and, more importantly, the USB port of your computer. The Arduino is going to automatically switch power supply if you feed it over 7 volts on the jack, even if a USB cable is plugged in. On the right side of the diagram, we have the LED loom. And this one is a bit optional. The camera can work perfectly without it, so feel free to ignore all that part. First, we are going to take care of the power supply loom. We will need a jack socket, a voltage regulator, some wires, and ideally a pin header. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can manage without it. It just makes the connections with the servos and the Arduino a little bit easier. The first step will be to cut a few lengths of wire around 80 mm long, or about 3 inches for the Imperialist. Cut 4 lengths of black, 2 of red, 2 of orange, 1 of green, and 1 of yellow. The colors don't really matter, but just be consistent, it's always going to be easier down the line. Once this is done, strip the end of the wires. Next, we will solder the wires to the voltage regulator. The left pin will take the input tension. For me, it will be 9 volts because this is what my power supplies deliver. The middle pin will be connected to the ground, and the right pin will output the regulated tension to 5 volts. Start by twisting 3 black wires together, then solder them onto the middle pin of the regulator. Repeat the process with 2 oranges on the right pin, then solder a red wire on the left pin. Once this is done, you can insulate everything with some heat shrink tubing or some electrical tape. Okay, now we are going to create the connectors for the servos. So check the order of your servos wires. Here I have ground on the left, positive in the middle, and the control wire on the right. You need to make sure you respect the right order when you solder your connections. Break 3 pins away from the header. You can then solder the yellow wire on one of the side pin, then one of the orange wire coming from the regulator to the middle pin, and one of the black wire coming from the regulator onto the last pin. Of course, don't forget sliding on the heat shrink tubing before soldering. And then you can repeat the same process for the second servo connection. Next, we will solder the yellow and green wire onto a couple of pins, and they will connect to the Arduino later on. Moving on to the last step of the power supply side, the connection with the jack socket. We will solder the remaining black and red pieces of wire onto another 2 pins. Those will be used to supply the power to the Arduino. Next, we will take care of the jack socket. The first thing we need to do is to check where the ground and positive pins are on the socket. For that, we will use a multimeter and check the voltage between the 2 pins of the socket. If the voltage reads positive, then we know that the red probe is touching the positive pin. If the voltage reads negative, we will then know that the red probe is touching the ground pin. The last step will be to twist the red wires together and solder them onto the positive pin of the jack socket. We will then do the same thing for the black wires onto the ground pins. As usual, make sure you don't forget to slide on the heat shrink tubing before soldering. And now that's done. Now we will just check that the loom is working properly. I have 9 volts across the power supply of the Arduino and 5 volts for both servos. Sweet! Now we are going to wire the LEDs. It's pretty simple. Just make sure you wire them the right way around. The shorter legs indicate the ground side. Solder a resistor on each LED and then the wires. Twist all of the ground together and solder them to a pin. The last thing will be to solder each positive to 3 pins that will be connected to the Arduino. And we are done with the wiring, and now we can finish assembling the project. See you in the next video.